point.
Yeah.
And maybe we can all meet someplace and have ice cream and look at the waves. Right?
Exactly. Oh gosh.
Do you want a bad joke for the day?
Sure.
Yeah, right. I'm ready. Write it down.
What did the waves in Hawaii say to me when I was peering out on the ocean?
I don't know what.
They didn't say anything. They just waved.
Bad joke Wednesday.
You advertised that well.
Okay.
So funny.
Oh no.
Gosh.
Oh my
I think it was going to be
goodness.
an aloha kind of feeling.
I know. It's too bad my grass skirt's at the cleaner. So.
Oh, that's funny.
Right.
Oh, and it'll come back a mini skirt. So sorry.
Oh, that's funny. Well, it's fun to see all this adaptive equipment now at the ocean too. When I was at the beach and seeing like the large tire wheelchairs that can bring people accessibility to get to the ocean, and just there was a whole group of seniors that were down by the ocean, and it was just really inspiring to see people having accessibility, not just watching the ocean from a distance, but feeling the ocean, because when you get close to shore, there's just something about being in that environment, smelling the salt water, seeing the children running around, and it was an inclusive activity for all ages. And I think that's really what you want to do, is you want to bring everybody, not isolate people. I always felt like our school systems were weird, how we isolate people, and it felt abnormal to be living on college. And I always felt it was surreal. You're with people your own age group for 4 years, and never again in your life will that happen. And so when I see multi-generations coming together, it's affirming to me that we really need each other. We need to learn from each other.
Yeah, what you're making me think of, Janice, is how important that in our mindset that we actually remain curious about each other. And that curiosity is really, really what makes me thrive. Being curious about Christine, I wonder what she's doing today, and just being curious. And I love that. I love being curious about each one of us and all the different age groups.
Yeah, it's important.
Right.
Well, you made me really think, Janice, too. I hadn't given any thought to accessibility at the beach, but we should be questioning everything now, right? We are not who we were. It is not that time. It's a very future-based time for all of us. And the fact that some people have already thought about creating that kind of wheelchair accessibility, that is brilliant to my mind.
Right.
So what else could be changed? How could we expand on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like where you have the bike rentals, or where you have the kayak rentals, where you have things at the beach where families want to gather. Why not include your grandparents? Why not at those places with our aging, our aging population, throw in there some, those wheelchairs with the bigger wheels, so you can get to the ocean. If you have really soft sand and they can't go through, maybe have some areas where you have planks that you can just wheel down, so you can get to that harder packed sand.
Sure. I mean, if we can have boardwalks for people just to stroll along holding hands and buying trinkets, then why don't we have boardwalks where more people, whether that's a young family with a stroller, or it's someone of our demographic, so that they are out socializing. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
and
My husband.
learning and staying curious. Accessibility,
Yeah.
it's not new. Someone, you see those pictures from the 1800s, and it was dirt streets. So it was either dusty or muddy,
Yeah.
and they had to wait for right in between so they could actually go through town. And someone said, hey, we need to address these accessibility issues.
Mhm.
And so what I'm going to build in front of my storefront with the nice little Western top here, let's make sure that it meets your store, what you put, and make sure that they can continue on. And, because my grandma can't come to the feed store anymore, or the mercantile, so accessibility isn't new, but it's become, I don't know, I would say demanded. It's a command performance.
Mhm.
This must happen. And when accessibility becomes an issue for a person who has clout and influence, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, clear the decks, stop the ride at Disneyland. My loved one needs to have an opportunity to see Small World, or It's a Small World. Yeah, that's it. We have wonderful people championing us right now. Tracy Lamb, speaking of hula skirts at the beginning, she is streaming on Hulu. We have, goodness sakes, Jody Lamb. Janice, do you know her?
I do. She's wonderful. She is, if anybody listening has any issues with structured settlements, Jody is your go-to person. When you have an accident, a devastating accident, and you have a settlement that's coming to you, she knows everything about it. And I honestly did not know anything about structured settlements. And I was like, I heard her on a live stream. And I was like, what is it? Can you just say, what is a structured settlement? Because that's how naive I was. I had no experience in my time. And she really deciphers the complexity of it, and she makes it accessible. When we talk about accessibility, she makes it accessible for people to know what their rights are and what's going to benefit them. And I love how Tracy, I know it's three Lambs, like Tracy Lamb, Jody Lamb, and Brittany Lamb, who's a doctor with Alzheimer's, and helps with that. And Tracy with her show on caregiving worldwide. Oh my goodness, I was so lucky to be on her show on her third episode. And yeah, so you can stream it. You can stream it on Hulu, Roku, Amazon Fire, RHS streaming is Red House streaming is where you can find it.
Oh,
Good to know.
Yeah.
I feel the support of Steve Berger every Wednesday. In fact, he sent me a message. Couldn't make it to your show. Can you give me the link for last week?
Oh.
And then the gentleman that I had on last week, who are now not up in Canada, I would say up, maps on walls, are not in Canada right now. Lev and Daniel are in the States doing a presentation. Well, Steve has aided that is a resource hub. Yay! And so he just, I feel his support coming into shows, going out of shows, and he wants to bring information all into one spot, which is great, because I used to think a couple years ago, why doesn't anybody do this? I guess I'll have to do all of it. I just didn't know. And yay for LinkedIn. I finally got to meet all these people who are addressing all these things. Now, you ladies keep going, because I need to get something off the shelf for Nikki Jardin. I need to get something off the shelf. So you keep going.
Great. Well, going back to accessibility, I learned a phrase that I had not learned before. It's called curb cutting. And curb cutting, when remember in the 70s when they started to make these sidewalks accessible for people. And actually, I learned this when I was with Nikki at a coffee shop. And the idea is that people with wheelchairs needed the curbs cut so they can get to the next stores. But as they started cutting curbs on the city sidewalks, moms loved it for strollers. Bicyclists loved it. And then it became mainstream. So when we take accessibility to mainstream, then that is really true inclusion. And so everybody can enjoy it, whether you're using like that easy hold or for being able, and have restaurants having those kinds of accessibility products in their utensil options. You know, how lovely would that be for somebody with Parkinson's to have a weighted spoon or a, you know, and the restaurant can offer that. So you can actually go out with your full family, and a restaurant might have a plate. I know Christine and Cindy have from the Adaptive Equipment Corner. They have a wonderful channel of resources. But I saw a plate that just raises up your plate for you. It's like a little topper, but it doesn't slide around like we do for babies, those mats. And it's like, and that brings the to somebody. And how beautiful is that to have a restaurant maybe have something like that? They don't need a bunch of them. They just need to offer one. And I think I would be more inclined to frequent that restaurant because they are thinking about other people.
Yeah. You know what thought is going through my mind as you're sharing all this, Janice, is wouldn't it just be the coolest thing if we could make accessibility chic?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yes, Jody, I absolutely. I was thinking about what drives accessibility. And when you were talking, Christine, in the example of the mercantile, I think, well, back in those days, the accessibility was driven by the merchants who wanted to make sure clients could come. But now is it the user of the accessibility, the beneficiary, maybe I should say, of the accessibility?
That has to be their own advocate.
Yes, but I love Jody's idea of how do we position this so it becomes chic? And if you don't have it, you're passe.
Yes. I love that.
Well, it's almost like Nikki Jordan says in the comments, like having high chairs. You know, I'm sure that they didn't have high chairs before, and now we're you know, why not have wheelchairs, or why not have a walker, just if someone just needs assistance to get into the restaurant, to between the tables, or you know, it's just it's a way.
It's a more enjoyable dining experience for everyone at the table.
Right.
If you can actually, it's also for people who are larger. Everyone has adjusted something furniture-wise to make sure that someone can enjoy the dining experience as much as anyone else at the table who's shorter, who has and you're saying, you know, neuropathy. Just assume neuropathy. That's any age. We have a friend who experienced neuropathy after surgery. It isn't something you walk around with, you know, hi, I'm Christine A. Smith. I can't feel, you know, 3 of the fingers in my left hand. You tend to make that, you know, it's like, is there anything we can do today to make your experience here at our beautiful what do you call it when you're touring? It's a site. It's all I can think is website. You know, you're going to tour the castle or something. Is there anything else that we can do to make your stay, your visit, your experience more enjoyable rather than, oh, I don't know how we can do anything. And I'm guilty of that. I did not understand people who were severely celiac. I didn't understand that it wasn't just a choice or a preference or whatever, suck it up and, you know, just don't eat anything today. You know, it's, I very much understand it now because it's come into our family life. And I'm ashamed that I didn't jump on board immediately. And I'm going, what made the difference? You had to experience it. And that's what I'm seeing many people for to develop empathy with dementia. They have you wear things on your feet, on your hands, wear glasses to experience that, to go, I don't want someone else to have to struggle as much as I did to do a simple task, to feel embarrassed about it, to feel frustrated, to feel like, forget it. I won't socialize anymore because I'm always the one that needs something special. And it's like, how about enhancing your experience?
Mhm.
I grabbed these off the shelf. So this is Nikki and Tave. Nikki and Tave created this because of a loved one who used to enjoy magazines very much, and that stopped with a change of neurodiversity, cognitive difficulties. I believe it was a form of dementia. So they started creating magazines that were enjoyable. And I test drove these, Nikki, on my mother, not because she has expressed that she can't anymore. I test drove it on her, 91 years old, to see if this would still be enjoyable for another person sitting next to a friend, a sister, anyone. And she said, oh, well, I must have liked them because I can't think of anything to complain about. Like, high praise indeed. So thank you so much for making those available.
They are wonderful magazines. I had the pleasure of sharing a booth space with Nikki at an event this weekend with Unique Markets, and it was really interesting to listen to people experience what is a magazine that people of all ages can enjoy. So it doesn't speak down to anybody, but they are original stories. So it's not copy print stories um, that are so well written. Nikki is an amazing writer, but Tave's written some, and they have guest writers, and and each magazine has a theme to it. And when I met Nikki, uh, gosh, 3 months ago, and she's in Portland as well. And so when I met her at a coffee shop and I saw this magazine, the way I described it, it's like highlights for adults. Like we all loved highlights when we sat at the dentist office and we maybe had a subscription to it. And it is just evokes that quality, and then the feel of the pages are just yummy, where you want to turn the page and you can finish a story. You have no advertisements in it, so someone's not lost.
Turn to page 62 to find the rest of what you're doing. And meanwhile, you're getting all distracted by the colors and the words. And what was I finishing? It's very standalone. It's very, even standalone paragraphs or sentences to just be in the moment. And that's one of the blessings that a caregiving person can be in the moment with that person. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what else is going on or how quickly we need to get to the next thing. We just get to be right there. And it's information. I didn't know about that blues singer. I didn't know about that. So I'm not looking at child style words. It is no different than listening for us, for Janice and I, OPB, Oregon Public Broadcasting, to be listening to just one person talking about something very simple. We used to listen to Garrison Keillor.
Right. Yes, it has that.
It was a quiet week in Lake Wobegon. and you settled in for where is this going to go. It's different than splash, boom, 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 turn to page 62. So
Well, it'll be fun to see what Nikki and I teamed up in Tave to do something to bring Mirador magazine to a streaming platform. So we filmed that, and it's they want them to speak more about it. But it's just Mirador magazine live would be the feeling of like a Mr. Rogers, Great British Bake Off, Beatrix Potter, because it evokes all of those feels that you want. And Isabel, with your like reinvention aspect of your life, could you imagine like television viewing to be not just chaotic that we put for our seniors, and, watch a news channel or watch a game show and it's like bling 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 bling. We just need things that are just going to be lovely and calm.
yeah, a nice flow. Abby Ritchie do you all know about Abby Ritchie?
No.
All righty. The Tech Tuesday for Janice and I, it's 10:30, so that would be 1:30 Eastern. She has a half hour with people who talk about aging and technology. It's what she does. She works with people who have entered an era where they didn't do as much technology as my 24-year-old does. That's just been a natural part ever since, sixth grade, to be working on screens and figuring things out. And it's as natural as learning how to drive and then negotiating a different city. That's what they're doing. But for a person who has settled into a lifestyle that is just wonderful and really serves them, and now realizes that there's a chunk passing them by, and that's me, because I didn't do any social media. I didn't do anything like this. So Abby Ritchie in person works with individuals who are generally a couple of decades beyond her. And she does a show for Steve Moran, SLF, Senior Living Foresight. And so you have to go to Senior Living Foresight profile on LinkedIn. That's where I go. There's probably other spots. And then you can watch and comment just like our friends are here right now. And she has actually helped me to meet people so that I can invite them to come my direction and have another group conversation. Sometimes she has one person, sometimes she's got a screen full, and they've innovated. They are working on making senior living communities even more, like we were talking about, more chic, more, are you enjoying your experience here? Are you able to contact your grandchildren easily? Do you have, wife and husband, husband is, has struggles that the wife doesn't have. Are both of you being served with technology? Are you getting a concierge to let you navigate it well? So yay, Abby.
That's so important.
Yeah. That makes me think what you just shared, Christine. I am working with a client right now where the couple really wanted to go to this very specific assisted living community because it was affiliated with their church. So it was important to them that they went to this particular community. Mr. does have Parkinson's and he's still living at home. But, when they went for their tour, went for their lunch, went for their presentation, I got a sense that something wasn't going well because the salesperson said, we have to talk to our director of nursing and see what they have to say. Long story short, they were welcoming them, but they wanted him to live in the nursing home and she could live in independent living. And I thought, how sad. How sad that this couple they've been married for 65 years would have to be separated if they chose that community. So I think this accessibility, this adaptation, it can't come fast enough.
And there are products out there. I don't know if you know about Ryan Hurd has his Smart Care, which are sensors that perhaps in that situation, they could put those sensors around so they know whether or not Mr. had, gone outside because it sees if the door is moving, or had showered, or had fallen. He's working on technology for that. There's just so many ways that we could keep people together as opposed to tearing them apart at a time of their life where that's their only real support system.
Yeah.
And, like my Talcy, my invention back here, I launched during the pandemic, and I was working at a care community, and I was able to gift that. They were one of my first customers, and they bought in bulk, and I was that the wholesale orders was the way I was going, B2B. And when I gifted it to the residents, that was the only time they felt hugged, because they didn't have any family coming in to hug them, and that gives them that kind of reassurance and comfort. But Jody, you bring up an excellent point about care communities, I think, need to be a little bit less stringent. I know it's safety. I know there's insurance.
Right.
But Isabel, we haven't heard from you. What do you think can solve that problem? I'm curious.
Yes, fix it.
Well, I'd like to be able to. And maybe the person who spontaneously decided to call my landline will have that answer. But I think this is the beginning of the fixing. It's this open conversation and the exploring of ideas and the vocalizing that none of us think it's right. It's not correct right now. It's not as good as it can be. And that we're not going to accept the status quo any longer, because every day I'm getting closer to it. You're getting closer to it. And so if we aren't going to contribute to it, then we can't very well complain about it later, right?
Right. The flip side of what I shared, I have another story. When I'm able, it's not very often anymore, but when I'm able, I like to go visit communities. I'll drive 4-6 hours away from where I live just to pop in and just say, hey, can I have a tour? And I like to do that just to see how they're going to respond to me.
Yeah.
And I did that in a town that was a couple hours away, beautiful community. And I always, when I do this, find someone who's living there and ask them what it's like. I want their honest opinion. And I'll never forget this. I don't think I'll ever forget it. I was in the elevator with this man who was pushing his wife in a wheelchair, and they were giddy. And I said, how is it living here in this community? And without hesitation, and they said, you know what? We moved in 6 months ago. We had no idea life could be this good. And I think really honestly, where we can start making a difference is really helping our aging population shift their mindset that they're not going to the community or assisted living or long-term care to end their life. They're going there to live their best life. And I think that's where we can be proactive, and we can make that movement happen.
Oh. Mike Ash, sorry, it's just me. I'm not like it's my turn. Mike Asherbrainer is doing all that he can to bring in that last lamb for you. Is it Janice that knows 3 lambs?
Yes, and Mike, he's a really amazing guy. If you haven't connected with him on LinkedIn yet, he started this movement called the Hounds of Business Happy Hour, and I encourage everyone to explore the Hounds, because they're the ones who have made LinkedIn a community. As we talk about community for aging, community on LinkedIn is imperative when you're trying to get your message across, when you're trying to grow your business, when you're trying to make a change. You know, we're all just cars stuck in the mud. And if you have a community, they can help push you out of the mud and get you further down the road. And I feel like that's what the Hounds are. They come out in support of people who are part of that group. And it's just a commitment to each other, that there's no money exchange. It's just about, how do we support one another in our endeavors? How do we make community on a screen, basically? How do we make community with strangers? And you know, I think as we keep opening up our idea and our definition of community, that is going to help us within our own actual physical communities expand ourselves. Like Jody's going into care communities. Isabel is expanding people into you talk about what you're doing with people.
Recognizing that you're not done, you are now starting from experience and writing a script and directing the next and best role in your life. For me, it's just this incredible excitement that if we frame it, to your point, Jody, that we're not going there to end our lives, it's starting the next best part of our lives, that okay, we've got all this tremendous foundation from the first 6, 7, 8 decades of our lives on which to build, to create new products, new services, new communities. And it is the mindset, to your point. And it is this opportunity to get in a like-minded community like what Christine is bringing together, and bounce thoughts off each other. And I'm hearing ideas from all of you today that I hadn't heard yet. Like my mind is still playing the conversations about restaurants right now, honestly. I'm just thinking, how have I been guilty as part of that, oh my God, don't go when the early bird dinner specials are on, because everybody's going to be shuffling, and it's going to be, you know, low quality food at lowest prices, and it's going to be people complaining. But boo on me, and boo on the industry if they're not recognizing the power of the purse. Our generations have the most disposable income. And if you make it attractive for us to go out, to dine, to have friendship, community, camaraderie, by adding those nuances, conveniences, improvements, it's a gold mine. I mean, if no other reason, pure and simple business wise, like the mercantile putting in the continuation of the ramp, to get people out. And I just think the benefits are exponential, because getting people out of their home, meeting new people, having conversation, maybe learning new skill sets, really slows down the mental decline, increases wellness physically, mentally, everything.
And I would put in Tausi in the restaurant, because it's comfortable for lumbar support, for people to get up and out of chairs, or you know, you can use it to even sit on, to raise yourself up. Because I agree with you, the restaurant conversation is so important, because that's where we meals together is what we share in this world. You know, people dine together. If you're, you know, from the cave people to, you know, to that's one thing that can bring peace if we, and just learn about each other's differences over a shared meal. And I would love restaurants to also think about those who are hard of hearing and to be able to have a room or two that has some noise cancellation so you don't hear the ambient noise that your hearing aids can't filter out
Right.
so well, but just amplifies that. So there's a lot of opportunity in restaurants. If anybody's listening in or restaurant people.
Yeah, I thank you for bringing up that, Janice, because I wear hearing aids. I've been hearing impaired for over a decade, probably longer before I realized it. And I dread going into many of the newer restaurants, the modern branded ones, because every surface is hard. It's stainless steel and it's granite, and the sound. Every sound reverberates. A piece of cutlery touching the table, people's voices are bouncing, and it's not a pleasant environment to be in. Now, fortunately, technology has advanced in that area, and my hearing aid have a setting, the app on my phone, that I can go to a restaurant mode, which directs the sound to where I'm facing. But that's a um, small individual aspect. I think just generally, why do we need to make a restaurant the noisiest place that there is? And is it so we can do turnover, get you in and out, or is it an opportunity to, as you say, go back to community?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Is anybody else really glad that Isabel made it today?
Yeah.
Because she said, well, I'll simply say, no, there's 5 things I want to say. There are a number of technologies that have already been created that address each one of these things we've been talking about. The couples being able to remain together, or a pair of brothers, or whoever it is that wants, mother son, who have always cared for each other for various reasons, being able to remain together and not being separated by something that outside of that community, it's like, well, that's unacceptable. That we're going to say you can only enjoy this part of the tour and you'll have to just do what you can with this part of the tour. I guess you two can talk later. It's just no one would say that. They would want the family, the loved ones, the friends to be able to remain together. Isabel, you talked about, have I contributed to, one word is ageism. I have. I know I did. I have pictures. My husband and I, when we were in our late 20s, we dressed up for Halloween as old people. So what did we do with our bodies? What did we do with our faces? I mean, we used makeup and everything. What did we do with the clothing? How did we change our voice? Yes, we have contributed. But if we had dressed up as, think of something, a disability or an ethnicity or a religious belief, if we had dressed up and made fun of that all evening, unacceptable. And a lot of things used to be acceptable. Make fun of, the not popular, or the ones that we still don't like because of something that happened years ago. And we don't want to be treated that way when we're in a different environment. It's like, oh, they're Canadians, oh, they're from Oregon, and about Oregon. We don't want, I don't want to be treated. I would rather be treated as an individual that you are curious about, that you would even listen to something that I have to say that you don't agree with, but I'm willing to have a conversation with you. And I don't check on any of you ahead of time to make sure that you're going to agree with me on everything. Oh my goodness. I feel like there was somebody new that showed up over here. I've interrupted the flow. So I'm going to very intentionally ask each of you to talk about your own endeavors very clearly, like boast, like promote, talk about it, give your contact information now so that I don't look at the time and go, oh, can you say it all in 1 minute? So which one of you feels ready?
I'm always
Raise
ready.
your hand. Oh, good. Okay, Janice raised her hand. Go ahead.
What we have here is Tausi, the reinvention of the pillowcase that supports your head and neck while resting in an upright position. So you can put Tausi behind your head, and you can use it, strap it to a chair, airplane, and your head is just caught from side to side. And so you don't have that neck pain from slumping, rolling, and being uncomfortable. You can use it for lumbar supports. And it was invented because my dad was in a care community and slumped over in a geriatric chair. And I thought, there has to be something. And there wasn't something. So I created it. And Tausi comes in horizontal and vertical. And it's not just for people who are aging. Again, it's like that curb cutting mentality. It was created, inspired out of love, but all generations can use it. The caregivers need a break and they need to rest when the person they're caring for is taking a nap. My son used it in college while reading books in bed and putting his laptop on it so it didn't overheat. So you can find me at TausiBrands.com, Jay Shoprian. Find me on LinkedIn or Jay Shoprian at TausiBrands.com. And if you use Smart Care, you'll get a nice discount on your Tausi. And I'll offer that to all the listeners today. So that's me. Thanks, Christine, for the opportunity.
And Tausi is spelled Tausi.
And it means caring. It's derived from the word tausimo, meaning caring for in Samoan.
Oh,
Beautiful.
I love those stories. How about Jody Kay?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to go next. So, I am the owner and operator of USA Geriatric Services. So I'm just going to just briefly share, and then I'll tell you what I do. But I was a hospital discharge planner for almost 16 years in a level 2 trauma center. And I, for all those years, solely worked on the orthopedic and neuroscience floors. So all the elderly that fractured their hip, tore their rotator cuff because they fell, broke their arm, or any other thing like that, I helped them. And on the neuro side, significant strokes, maybe someone fell off the ladder, now they have a brain injury. I also worked with all of those. I loved my job, but really felt constrained and I wasn't being fulfilled. I am a social worker. I like helping people, but Medicare rules and hospital regulations really got in my way of really being a really good social worker. And one day I just had enough. And it was when I was given the instruction that it doesn't matter where you put them. We need the bed, get them out. And it wasn't long after that I just quit. And I walked away. I had no idea what I was going to do. No clue. I was driving to Colorado and the idea of my business literally fell on my lap. And that's where it all began. So now I am actually offering the general public the same services that I did at the hospital. I help people get to assisted living. And I'm going to brag a little bit. To this date, I have never had to place anyone in traditional long-term care. That is my responsibility to find the right community for you. not just the one that's closest to you, daughter, because that might not be the right one. So I take a lot of pride in finding those communities that allow you to age in place and allow you to just live your best life. And if you don't meet my criteria, I'm not going to have you on my referral list. And I want to say that kind of loud and clear, because you know what? Everything that we've talked about today is so important. We need every community to get on the board, on board with aging in place, with allowing these couples to stay together. So yeah, if you're caring for an aging loved one and it's just becoming too much to handle, and you have no idea how to maneuver the healthcare system, how do I even do this? That's when you would give me a call. And that's when we would talk, and we would see if we're a right fit and if we can work together, which I've never turned anyone away. So I was kind of known as the queen of difficult discharges at the hospital. I would work with communities. If someone came in from an assisted living and they started to refuse to take their resident back, hey, let's work together. Let's get through these barriers. Let's do that. And one other thing, and then I'll be quiet for now. But communities love working with me. They love working with me. Recently had a woman who I found the community. The family said, "This isn't the community that we were wanting, Jody. This isn't what we were thinking." I said, "Well, that's fine. We'll go wherever you want, but just do me a favor and go visit it." And they did, and they were overwhelmed. They said, couldn't believe it. There were 13 on the wait list. I got her in 3 days because I know the job. I know what to do. So, yeah, you can visit my website at usageriatricservices.com, and you can find me there and scroll around and look around. Lots of good information there. So thank you, Christine, so much for having me.
Absolutely. Before we went live, it turned out you have crossed paths and either virtually or in person sat together with Isabel. And so I hear case management. Is that what you were called? You were a case manager for 16 years?
Discharge planner was my official title.
There you go. But social worker, it's often a nurse or a social worker. I learned a whole bunch about it at the Gero conference at Oregon State University last summer, and got to meet and hang out. I've been hanging out occasionally with the gal that has been the president here in Oregon of case management, discharge planner.
Yep. And you know, it's so interesting when we said a little earlier, Isabel, I think it was you that was sharing, do they have a concierge? Well, in one of the presentations that I give to groups, I do identify myself as a concierge. So that just feels good. It feels good for me, and it feels good for you. So, yeah.
Awesome.
I think concierge is such a great word, because I think just about everybody has an idea what a concierge does, right? They're someone that facilitates things for you, someone who has access to things that you might not know about or have access to, and someone who makes you feel like a bit of a VIP. So I would say that would describe what Jody Kay is doing for her clients.
There's the chic we were talking about. Isabel, it is your turn. I know you two were in some sort of master class together.
Yes, originally I met Jody Kay in a master class that we were both taking about how to learn more technology, how to leverage it, how to increase our reach to our desirable audience. And when she was talking about her business, my entrepreneurial curious mind was kicking in, going, there's a disconnect here between what I'm seeing on her website and stuff, and what her vision that she was beautifully articulating were. And so took it upon myself to reach out to her and say, are you open to some feedback? And we were able to come up with some very positive advancements for her business identity and her client reach. Which brings me to what I do.
Yes.
I love telling other people what to do. How's that?
Perfect.
You do a fabulous job at doing it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I want to say I love this opportunity to meet new people and engage and to tickle my brain into thinking a little differently about things, because I think we do sort of get stuck in our rut. And so we call that pattern interrupt, right? It makes you stop and go, whoa, wait a second. And that's exactly what happened to me, Christine, when I saw the term geropreneur. I kind of went, put the brakes on. What the heck is this? What is this? Because preneur, is what means so much to me is about the excitement and the energy and the possibility of what makes our world go round. But I thought, what the heck's a geropreneur? Well, now, hallelujah, I have a much better idea. And really, that's what I'm loving doing, is that I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have managed and started and built and grown businesses up to 8 figures in size. And I had the fortune of selling my company and taking a relatively early retirement. And I had to fire myself from that because I was absolutely a failure at retirement. I realized there was just so much more I wanted to do and to learn, and that instead of, the model that I had in my mind about retirement, where I would just look cute in polo sweaters and sit on the golf cart, I changed my mind that retirement should only be retiring from the things I don't like to do, so that I have more time to do more of what I like to do. And I think that we're seeing these examples here in these conversations. And I love the hashtag that you're using, aging enthusiast, because it really sums up what I truly, truly feel. I'm so excited about the possibilities of our generation and even the one ahead of us, and the ones behind us, where we say, hey, not everything is invented or figured out or perfect or perfected yet. And the markets and the needs are changing, and the resources and the technologies to support them. And so that means there's so much opportunity for us to be business owners, to be inventors, to be custodians of services and products and ideas. And so what I do is work with people who want to do something but don't know quite how to go from who they were in a past life or role to who they are next. And that's what I call the encore methodology, where I'm just have this fabulous opportunity to help people vision a script for the next part of their life, their next and best role, and then help them to figure out the stage on which they play that, and the cast and crew that are essential to support that long-running successful role, which I like to call our encore. And I especially like the term encore because when you're at the theater, there's not just one encore, right? It's encore, encore, encore. And so it means that we can just continually, if we choose, to decide on the next encore and build on top of what we have been doing all our lives. So I work with business owners, and I am particularly passionate about working with women business owners who have maybe lost the love or are feeling burnt out or overwhelmed with their current business, and to help them revision that and find the love again.
I usually have too much to say, but I've had like little tears in my eyes since before we went live. I was just like, they get it. These are my people, and I'm thinking about everyone who's trying to find and elevate. That's not the right word, but elevate, like push that person up onto my shoulders so that the crowd can look over and go, look, they have the solution to my problem. That person has another answer to my question. There's so much going on. The tears are, I just became linked with a person through my husband and what he does. And that person said, I read that there are 53 million of us in the United States. Then multiply that out to all of North America and across the world. And when you just fall into the role of worrying and physically helping and being on hold with companies and associations and organizations, all that goes into making sure that that other person is getting what they need to recover. Maybe it isn't a long-term thing. You're just trying to help them recover something that was lost to them because of a condition, disease, accident, just, and what that person was saying, if I'm not even going to quote it right because I saw it just moments before I came on here, was, I'm just starting to realize that there's something out there that will help in my situation. Obviously, I don't want to divulge anything. That will help in my situation with my loved one, which I have been suddenly thrust into because of the death of the person who had been taking care of the situation all along. And there's so many people be going, yeah, that was us. Me and my siblings thought that they would take care of each other. We thought we had this covered, and now I'm just trying to figure it out. And I just really look forward to the day when Tracy Lamb has an entire TV station. People are just like, just go there. You're going to find out who's got resources, how many different options you have, that you do not have to just say, oh, that's all that's offered. So I guess that's all I can hope for. Um, and I don't mean that they're giving up. They just don't even know that there are other options.
I think
So I'm getting all emotional here. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad each of you came. I am so grateful for each of the people who came and commented. And that includes Melissa Augustine. We need more people like you for families. I think that was written when Jody Kay was talking. I'm grateful. Okay, put my hands down. We're at the end. I'm grateful for my hubby producer, D. Scott Smith, motivational listener. Talk about pattern interrupt. Motivational listener who figured out a way to do what Isabel does, and that is dragged me into doing what I thought I was going to do in a senior center with just the sound of my voice. And I got to meet you, and you are meeting other people. And now this will be archived on Aging Better Network, where someone can go and say, I'll just have this running in the background while I am taking care of someone. I'll have this in front of me on my screen because I am experiencing challenges as I age maybe there's something there. And the first thing they're going to do is go, just like you've all experienced. Oh, you were talking to me. Thank you. And ladies, we're at the top of the next hour. Just to be polite to you and my husband, I will say thank you, and I can't wait to talk to you again sometime. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Christine.
Such a pleasure.
Oh,
Such a pleasure.
I'm so glad you came today. All of you.
Oh, it's wonderful.